Today, I want to share a great idea for a pre-reading strategy that you can implement with any reader you're using with your classes. Let's take a look at how you can use an activity called Quite the Character. This idea is in the Teacher's Guide for Abejas Exploradoras, as well as in others. But if you're not using that book, or the book you're using doesn't have this particular activity in the Teacher's Guide, you can still use this idea. Let's walk through this activity and how you can do this with your students. If you're using the Abejas Exploradoras reader, you are probably teaching a novice level class, perhaps Spanish 1 at a high school or middle school, or maybe you're using it with an elementary class even. In traditional world language teaching, it is common to stick to the present tense at this level. But why? Do we have to only use the present tense in level 1? No way. The best way to help students become proficient in the target language is to expose them to real language in context, regardless of the tense. Just make sure you make it comprehensible for the students, and this activity does just that. This activity will get your students making predictions about what's going to happen in the book, using the near future tense. For this activity, as the name of it, Quite the Character, implies, you will be working with the characters of the story. So you will need to make a list of all the major characters in the book. Remember that sometimes characters could be animals or even objects. Now that you have your list of characters, you need images for each one. In some readers, like Abejas Exploradoras, there are great images in the book that you can use. However, if the reader you're using doesn't have all the images you need, you can find images online that match what you imagine the characters to look like. The next step is to then write descriptions about the characters. And this is where providing language and context about what is going to happen in the near future comes in. Use the going to plus infinitive form of the verb to create these sentences. You can just teach is going to as vocabulary. Or if you want to explain that here you are talking about something that is going to happen in the future, and to do that you use is going to plus the infinitive, you can easily pop up that grammar for your students. If you then use the same structure to make predictions throughout the book, students will acquire how to talk about events in the future. The sentences you write don't have to have only one correct answer. There may be a couple of characters that a description applies to, and in this activity, that's okay. Once you have finished writing the descriptions, you will need to either share this document electronically with the students or make a photocopy for each one. When they have access to it, you may want to go over the sentences with the students to make sure they understand everything. We want to make sure the input is comprehensible. You now have all the resources put together that you need for this activity. So it's time to set up the activity now. You can do it in a couple of different ways. The first way is as a gallery walk. You can hang the pictures up on the walls around the room. Then students walk around and write the letter of the character they think goes with each description. They can do this individually or in pairs. Working with a partner would give students a chance for some interpersonal communication practice as well. If you choose this option and your students are at the novice level, I suggest providing them with some sentence starters like, I think that, or it seems to me that, or maybe even, in my opinion, so that they can share their ideas with their partners. If you want or need a version of this activity where students aren't moving around the classroom, you could project the images for the students to see, and they could complete this activity at their desk. After students have completed their predictions, have a conversation with the class about what they think is going to happen in the story. You could even add some novelty to this part of the activity by switching up how students provide answers. You could have them write their answers on individual whiteboards, for example, or maybe use American Sign Language to show the letter of the character. Or you could choose 4 possible responses and have students do a 4 corners activity. Once you finish, have students save their sheets with their predictions so that when they finish reading the story, they can check how many predictions they had correct. You could also have the class come to a consensus on their predictions as you're discussing their answers, and then you can keep track of the master sheet of predictions and bring it back out as an activity at the end of the book to see how many guesses the class had correct. At this point, when you're discussing the predictions at the end of the book, you could have that discussion in the past tense so that now they're getting comprehensible input in yet another tense. You could ask, for example, were we correct? Who caused problems in the story? Did the carpenters cause problems? Did anybody else cause problems? We hope you found this activity interesting and have plans to add it to your toolbox of ideas for your lessons. If you do use it, let us know how it goes by leaving us a comment.